The Houston Texans are stuck in the same repeating cycle with CJ Stroud at the quarterback position. As I record this video, they're currently 2-3 on the season. Now, it is a lot of time to go out there and turn things around in the season, but at the same time, there's a lot of concerns with this team moving forward that we've seen over the last 2 years, and that's what I mean by a repeating cycle. In year one with CJ, they shocked the world. They won this division and they won a playoff game over the Cleveland Browns. They completely destroyed the Cleveland Browns, and CJ looked phenomenal in that playoff game. Unfortunately, they lost in the second round to the Baltimore Ravens. But you go back to last season, the offense did take a step back in year two with CJ, and the same with their offensive coordinator at the time with Bobby Slowick. But yet you still won this division and you won a playoff game over the Los Angeles Chargers. And you had a lot of analysts come out and they favored the Chargers at that point in time over the Houston Texans. They completely destroyed Justin Herbert and that offense. He had 4 interceptions in that game. Justin Herbert only had 3 interceptions in the regular season. But unfortunately, again, you lose in the second round to Kansas City. The offensive line protection has been abysmal with CJ in year one and year two, and now in year three. But at least in the past, you had a reliable tackle in Laramie Tunsil, and I understand why they traded Laramie Tunsil. Was dealing with injuries over the last couple of years, not major injuries, just minor injuries, and he had a lot of penalties in Houston, and he was making a lot of money. But he was still the most consistent, and he was easily the best offensive lineman for the Houston Texans, and you can run on that side of the field constantly with him. He's no longer here. So now you're depending on a rookie and Ariante at the left tackle position. I think that he could be a very good player long term, but he's had a lot of up and down moments this season, which is typical for a rookie at the tackle position. You have Titus Howard at the right tackle position. He's not this super old veteran, but he has years underneath his belt in the NFL. You have Ed Ingram at the right guard position, Juice Shrugs, and Jake Andrews. I still have a lot of concerns with this offensive line. CJ has been sacked 12 times in 5 games this season. And they're currently on a 2-game winning streak, which we will get into later in this video. But when we go back to week 1 against the Los Angeles Rams, CJ had little to no time inside the pocket, but yet you were still in this matchup because your defense is so phenomenal. And the simple fact that CJ was still able to find ways outside the pocket to escape and to give the football to key wide receivers like Nico Collins, the same with Jaden Higgins, who was a rookie. He was 19 of 27, 188 passing yards, 0 passing touchdowns. He did have an interception in this matchup, but that was not on CJ. He throws a beautiful dime to the wide receiver in Jaden Higgins. Here comes Kobe Durant. He takes the football out of his hands. That's not in the quarterback here. So if you look at the box score, you'll say that CJ had a terrible game. He didn't. He did not put the football in the harm's way, and he was hitting open wide receivers when he had the chance to. And he was getting the football out quick. This is also a brand new system underneath their brand new offensive coordinator in Nick Calley. Because Bobby Slowick is no longer here. You moved on from him in the offseason, which may be a mistake. Which may have been a mistake. But in this matchup against the Rams, even if you take away that interception, they still had the chance to win this matchup. It's a screenplay late in this matchup here. The running back fumbles the football, and that's how the game ends. You lose this matchup 9-14. Whenever your defense holds the opponent to 14 points, you should be able to win that matchup. And CJ does deserve some blame, but it's not all on him. It's on the play calling and the offensive line and a lack of a run game in this matchup against the Rams. And the Rams, they are one of the better teams in the NFC. They have a phenomenal pass rush that is very young. But in the past with Bobby Slowick, even though he had a lot of bad moments with Houston last season, he used motion to get the football out quick to set up those deep shots down the field. You didn't see much of that in week 1, and yet you were still in this game and you only lost 9-14. There is no shame losing to the Los Angeles Rams, but to only get 9 points, that is sad, but it is week 1. So you move on to week 2, the opening drive, CJ to Nico Collins, beautiful. That's how it looked in year 1. That's how it looked in year 2. You're starting off hot there, but you go 3 to 4 drives without getting past the 50-yard line. That's unacceptable. And I understand you no longer have Stephon Diggs. Tank Dell is out for this entire season. He hurt his knee against Kansas City late last season. But you still have playmakers on this roster like Jalen Noel, who you drafted with Jaden Higgins, both out of Iowa State. You hope that those players could be very good number 2 and number 3 wide receivers long term. And Christian Kirk, he's still out at this point in time in the season dealing with a hamstring injury. But you lose this matchup 20-19. You can blame the defense because they did give up the game-winning score to Rachaad White, the running back of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But you had so many miscues on the offensive end. Bad offensive line protection. CJ was missing a lot of passes in this matchup. He was not able to scan the field. Eye test wise, this was easily the worst game that he's played this season. Dalton Schultz is wide open in the middle of the field. He just didn't see him. He checks the football down to the running back. Now you have to punt the football down the field. So he needs to be better in that regard. But once again, this is a close football game. So this is back-to-back times now that you lose by 1 score. We go over to the Jacksonville Jaguars. This was a putrid game in the first half. The Houston Texans got little to nothing done. CJ had 204 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 2 interceptions. Doesn't have enough time inside the pocket. He's getting pressured and hurried a lot. And we've seen this before in the NFL. If anyone is saying, well, CJ is just playing bad, look at Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl against the Philadelphia Eagles this previous year. Look at Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You have to have time inside the pocket. It's so many times this season and even last year to where CJ doesn't even have 1.5 seconds in the pocket to even move around. And it's putting a lot of stress on these wide receivers and the same with the running backs. At least in the past, they could run block for someone like Joe Mixon, and the same with the power backs they've had in the past. And Dameon Pierce. But you look at the Houston Texans in this matchup against the Jaguars, they had 1 touchdown that was blown coverage to Nico Collins. I don't count that. This was a terrible offensive coordinating game, and this was also a bad game for CJ. The entire offense let them down, but you only lost 17-10. If you clean up the offensive miscues, you'll be better off for the rest of the season. Now, they finally got their last 2 wins against some bad teams here. Let's just be honest. The Tennessee Titans, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL as I record this video. A rookie quarterback in Cam Ward. The defense, they feasted the entire day. And they had Brian Callahan as their head coach at that point in time. As I record this video, they just fired Brian Callahan. Good for them. But the Houston Texans won this game 26-0. CJ 22-28 on the day. 2 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 233 passing yards. And the offensive line did look better. This is a solid defensive front for the Tennessee Titans. Bad football team, yes, but they have some solid defenders on that defensive line. And yet this offensive line looks solid. We finally got to see Woody Marks wake up with this organization. And the same with Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb has had some good moments. Had a very good run late in the game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So now the run game is starting to get going. Now you can work off of play action. And this is what happened in this matchup. We got to see CJ be more so of himself like how he was in year 1 and in year 2. And against the Baltimore Ravens, majority of the defense, they were banged up. They were out. But if you're a Texans fan, usually when the Texans have faced the Baltimore Ravens, even dating back to the first game of CJ's career in the NFL, the top 2 tackles were out. No Laramie Tunsil, no Titus Howard. And the Ravens have given them hell a lot in the past. So even though they were going against a bunch of second and third strings on defense, this was still a very good win for Houston Texans fans because you go back to Christmas Day last year, that was a bad loss for Houston. But you won this matchup 44-10. CJ 244 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And CJ has played good this season. But my biggest question is this for the Houston Texans. Can you do this against teams like Kansas City? A healthy Baltimore Ravens team? Can you do this against the Jacksonville Jaguars in your division and the same with the Indianapolis Colts? Because if your offense can wake up, if they can be middle of the pack, the Houston Texans could easily be one of the best teams in the AFC. And right now, I don't have them in that conversation, sadly. And if you listen to this channel over the last 2 to 3 years, you guys know that I love CJ as a player. But it comes down to his offensive line protection and the play calling with Nick Caley here. And I haven't seen much of that this season. In the last 2 games, sure, but this is weak competition. My expectation for the Houston Texans personally is to be there with Kansas City. Is to be there with the Buffalo Bills. And right now, the NFL is still wide open. Kansas City, they're starting to get their groove back. But the defense that the Texans have is phenomenal. One of the best defensive units in all the NFL. They're going to have your back. So moving forward, you're going to be in every single game for the rest of the season because of your defense alone. And that's not an overreaction. That was the case last year. Like I mentioned, you lost your first 3 games, but you only lost by 1 possession because your defense had your back. Coming off this bye week, and then you get to play Monday night, you have had a long rest here that should work into your advantage. You go on the road against the Seattle Seahawks. That's a tough matchup, but you should be able to go out there and win that game. Look at what Sam Darnold has done in the past against tough defenses based off of last season. You make them hold on to the football. You put that pressure on them over and over again. You face a 49ers team that's dealing with a lot of injuries right now as I record this video. That is DeMeco Ryans' old team. He's the former defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. So Kyle Shanahan, he knows his defense. But DeMeco Ryans, he knows his offense very well. That's going to be a very fun matchup. Be on the lookout for that prediction and preview video in the future. Then you face the Denver Broncos at home on November the 2nd. Broncos have one of the best defenses in the NFL with the Houston Texans. They have Bo Nix and inconsistent offense. These are 2 similar teams here. You face the Jacksonville Jaguars, a must-win game in this division because you're already down 0-1 in this division. Then you face the Tennessee Titans on the road, another must-win game. Then you face the Buffalo Bills. So there's a lot of time here for the Texans to bounce back, but they need their offense to step up and they need their offense to be more consistent. And defensively speaking here, they're 4th in total defense, 5th in passing defense, 7th in rushing defense. That'll get it done. That will get it done. Will Anderson, one of the best pass rushers in the game, mixed in with Danielle Hunter. They're one of the best pass rushing duos in the AFC. As a matter of fact, in the entire NFL. The linebacking core is very nice with Henry To'oTo'o. Then you have Azeez Al-Shaair. EJ Speed, don't sleep on him. Is a very good tackler in space. Derek Stingley Jr., one of the best cornerbacks in the game. Kamari Lassner is a very good number 2 cornerback to have alongside him. The one thing that does bother me, you have a lot of injuries on your secondary in terms of depth pieces. So if one of your starting cornerbacks go down, you may be in some trouble. And Jalen Petrie is holding things down at the nickel cornerback position. He could roam around from being a corner to being a safety. He's been Mr. Consistent since they drafted him a few years back. And when I look at someone like Nick Caserio, I've given him a lot of credit, and rightfully so. And I'm not saying that he deserves to be fired, but he deserves to be held accountable. He traded Laramie Tunsil. He drafted Ariante Ursary. You bring in Jaden Higgins, you bring in Jalen Noel. He made the trade to bring in Stephon Diggs, which ultimately didn't work out for the Houston Texans. He went down to ACL injury last year, missed majority of the season, and now he's with the New England Patriots. You had a chance to re-sign him, but the Texans said, no, it's okay, we're good, we'll move on. Those moves haven't lit up the Houston Texans over the last couple of years. And I'm not going to kill him for it because he tried his best. That's what you do when you have a quarterback on a rookie deal. You go out there and you try to put everything in the pile. You push all your chips in. And you put all the pieces that you can around your young quarterback and you try to win. Because as soon as CJ signs that massive contract extension that is going to be on the way, and the same Will Anderson, you're going to have little to no money left in cap space, even though the cap raises up every single year. But that's just the nature of the game. And we've seen this happen year in and year out with these quarterbacks. They're going to only get paid so much eventually. But right now, the quarterback price continues to rise every single year. The same with the cap space. But some of the moves that he's made over the last few years have made me scratch my head. You brought in Cam Robinson. He's no longer here. He's now with the Cleveland Browns. You traded Kenyon Green, which was a great move because he was a terrible offensive lineman for the Houston Texans, to bring in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. C.J. Gardner-Johnson only played a couple of games here. He's no longer with the Houston Texans anymore. You released him for nothing. He was on the practice squad of the Baltimore Ravens. Now he's back to being a free agent. The reason why you brought him in, you wanted someone to set the tone on defense and your secondary and to help you out in that safety room. Look at what Kansas City did. They realized, hey, the cornerbacks here, they're really good. And the same with the linebackers in space. But we could target those safeties over and over again. Now I'm worried about the safety department here. You're going to see a lot of teams go out there and test out those safeties. That's what Trevor Lawrence did. And the same with Baker Mayfield in week 2. Test out those safeties over and over. And I'm loving what the Houston Texans are starting to do. They're saying we'll play more man coverage, cover 1. We'll slide over Jalen Petrie up top. at the safety position. Then we'll put him back in the nickel cornerback position. But you're not going to sit back there all day and just test out our safeties over and over again. And Kalen Bullock last season did have 5 interceptions. He's a very good cover safety. But you need more production out of that safety room than him in terms of pass coverage. I like the players that the Houston Texans have. For the last 2 seasons, this was a very weak division. And you had terrible coaching. The Tennessee Titans have been a rebuilding team for some time now, since they fired Mike Vrabel. Brian Callahan was a horrible coach. You guys know how I feel about him. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, they took a step back with Doug Peterson over the last 2 years. And the same to Indianapolis Colts, they could not find a consistent quarterback to save their lives. Now they have that with Daniel Jones. Statistically, the 3rd best team in this division are the Houston Texans. And they were the best team in this division over the last 2 years. That is how fast things can change. So this is going to be a more difficult road to the top. But this is how some of the best teams are made. If they can fix their problems offensively and continue to feed Woody Marks, give him majority of those carries, and let Nick Chubb be that bowling ball running back downhill, you'll have something to work with. And Woody Marks has been a very good receiving back coming out of the backfield. And I thought that was going to be the case when they drafted him out of USC. And one more thing here. Joe Mixon is expected to return sooner than later. But I don't know how Joe Mixon is going to look. He's going to miss majority of the season, dealing with that foot injury. But you bring him back, that's an explosive playmaker to have in the backfield alongside CJ. He was one of the best running backs in the AFC last year. So you have him with Nick Chubb, with Woody Marks. You take that pressure off of CJ. But he really needs to try to go out there and elevate the games of Jalen Noel, and the same with Jaden Higgins. And they need more out of Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz has not done much this season, and especially last season in Houston. That first year, he was a very good receiving tight end. Had a lot of drops last year. This season, he'll come out, have some good moments, and he disappears for the rest of the game. He needs to be more consistent in the middle of the field. And CJ needs to do a better job in terms of finding him when he is wide open across the middle of the field and stop throwing passes when they're late. I'm not off on the Houston Texans just yet, but this is going to be a tough hole to climb out of in this division. And if I'm the Houston Texans, before the trade deadline hits, I'm calling around the NFL to see if I can trade for a guard, if I can trade for a tackle, to bring one of those guys in, even if they are aging. If they can still play at a high-end level, bring them in, and that can help out the offensive line. But I think they should stick with the system that they have, go out there and lean on those playmakers, hope that Christian Kirk can stay fully healthy for the rest of the season. He's a very good wide receiver against man coverage. He's a man beater over and over again, and you still have Nico Collins. But coming out of this bye week, they need to start off strong against the Seattle Seahawks and the same against the 49ers. At that point in time, you could be 4-3 on the season. But you have little margin for error moving forward, especially with this division being so tough. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Houston Texans, and can they bounce back and win the AFC South? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.